Right now, I want to welcome to the program from Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, on Twitter at DetroitCCW. Mr. Rick Ector is with us on the program. Rick, how are you today?
Man, I'm stoked, still stoked. Every time, we have our annual event, man, training the ladies, man, I'm just excited because, we put another one in the books and everything turns out well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that everything went well. The weather was cooperative for you this weekend?
It wasn't picture perfect, but it didn't rain and storm. But, we had so much participation and manpower from fellow firearms trainers across Metro Detroit, man, that even if it had rained cat and dogs, we still would have been able to do some business. So we're feeling really great about what we did this weekend.
I am so glad to hear that. Now, I know, we talked last week before the event, Rick, and last year you all had trained about 600 women.
Right.
You had space for 800, and when we spoke to you, I think you said about 700 individuals had RSVP'd. So I got to ask you, did you make 800?
Actually, we actually got up to 850 RSVPs, and we didn't get the 800 mark. We got 700. So still stoked and excited that we moved the bar forward continuously from 600 to 700, so, it gives me something to shoot for, pardon the pun, next year.
There you go. Well, you've already got 150 individuals who are interested, and I don't know what happened, but maybe they'll be the first in line next year. And again, Rick, 700 people over the course of one day. I mean, just the logistics of this are amazing. So can you brag on some of those volunteers that you mentioned, those firearms instructors from the Detroit area? How many folks did you have out there helping you?
Every firearms instructor that I'm close to here in southeastern Michigan had a hand in it. Not only do I want to commend those guys, man, but it's people like Aguilar Ammunition that came through for us with 16,000 rounds of ammunition. The NSSF came through with, gun locks, man, and we had a local dealer here, Doug Holloway, that gave up the guns for us to, provide them for the use of the ladies to shoot. The gun range, can't forget those guys. Top Gun gave us their range for the full day, man. And without those guys, we couldn't even made it happen. But, it took a lot of people to make this thing happen, and it was successful. 700 people participated. The youngest was a 12-year-old. The oldest was 86, 0 injuries whatsoever, and 100% smiles.
That is fantastic. 12 to 86. I mean, Rick,
yes,
that's pretty amazing. And I don't know how much time you had a chance to talk with any of the individuals who came out, but I'm guessing the vast majority of the women who were there did not have a lot of experience or exposure to firearms beforehand.
No, they didn't. There were some who just like to come every year, and, everyone can't come every year. There was a few of those, but many of them, they were just waiting for that nudge from somewhere to make them do it. This one lady really, really made an impression on me. She was like 4 or 5 years she had been mulling it, and she finally caught wind of the promo for the event, and she finally came. But, man, it was great. From 12 to 84, from every demographic, they all were there, and it was 100% smiles, man. It was just a great event. And here's the even bigger thing. For the participants that volunteer their time to do this event and to work it, it gives them all individually to a person a very great sense of satisfaction and a warm feeling inside, man. And you can't put a dollar on that.
Absolutely. Well, and again, the fact that you just mentioned that one individual who had been weighing for years whether or not to go. That to me, that speaks to the importance of events like this, Rick, because we talk all the time that if you did not grow up in a gun owning family, you don't know any gun owners yourself, maybe, it's intimidating, right? You don't want to go to the range for the first time because you're afraid, what are going to people say? Are they going to laugh at me? Am I going to be the newbie? But to have an event like this where you're going to be far from the only person who has never, picked up a firearm before, you're going to get that instruction. I just think this is an incredibly beneficial event, and it might take a couple of years for somebody to find that fortitude to say, all right, you know what, I'm going to go out and do this. But kudos for you, because as you say, to conquer that fear, of the unknown, such a good feeling, and the smiles on those faces. I imagine that was just an incredible reward for you.
It was, man. And to a person that participated, male or female, who were firearms trainers, many of them that I've trained or worked with over the years, man, they all left with a great feeling inside about a job well done. And all the women that were there, that from 12 to 84 across every demographic you can think of, the gun range even told me, man, they were like, in the history of working with us in this event, this is our third year working with them. This was the best year they did in terms of actually supplying, them with sales. People were just waiting for this event to come around, or in some cases they first heard about it for the first time and they were excited. And the thing I like about doing this is that I want my partners like the gun range, Top Gun, and Taylor to actually get something out of it too. And they left feeling good about what we all did.
Well, listen, Rick, thank you again for all of your work there and for coming on the program talking about this. I got to imagine this is probably one of the highlights of your year. How long before you start working on next year's event?
Man, actually, it's a continual effort, trying to identify participants and resources and things. So it's a continual thing, and it builds up. Today, I'm actually going to start working on next year's event. This thing is not something you can just throw together. It's something you have to put a lot of planning into it, but it's a labor of love, and I enjoy doing it.
Well, listen, man, and there are so many folks out there in the Detroit area and all across the state of Michigan who benefit from that. Because I got to ask, I mean, this was Taylor, Michigan, so not in Detroit proper, but fairly close to Detroit. Do you know what's the farthest away somebody came from in order to take part in this event over the weekend?
I can tell you right here, offhand, Rhonda Ezel from Chicago, the gun rights case out of Chicago, came on down and supported us. She was there, man.
That's awesome.
Glad to see her in the house. A year ago, I rode up to Chicago for a Maj Touré event, that they had in Chicago, because I've been hearing about Maj and Rhonda, and you know what? If they're in Chicago and I'm in Detroit, only 4 hours away, shame on me if I don't get in the car and drive up there and go introduce myself.
Man, that's awesome. And that's not the closest range to Chicago, but, Rhonda still to this day can't go to a range in Chicago because there aren't any. So, she's been continuing to keep up her activism. I'm glad that she was out there. And it sounds like this is just an amazing event. I got to get out there one of these years, Rick.
You know what? We'd be happy to have you. You know what? And I bet we could set it up where you could actually do the show from there.
We need to. All right, we got a year to plan this. As you say, this doesn't come together easily, but we'll wait for Cameron Gray to go back from vacation, John Pop to get back from his sick day, and we'll start working on the logistics of this.
Hey, man, once you don't tease me. I'm excited now. I'm going to be on you guys like, hey, can we do this? Please, can we do this? Can we broadcast Cam and company from the ladies' event in Detroit, man? That would be so awesome.
Well, listen, I can't make any guarantees, because if I do, then John Pop's going to yell at me. But I can promise you, right, I will do everything I can to make that happen next year, because I think that would just be absolutely tremendous. Rick, thank you so much for coming on the program, man. Thanks for all you do.
Hey, man, you are welcome, and thanks for having me again, man. Appreciate all you guys.
Always a pleasure. Rick Ector joining us from Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit.